Boon Chye, thanks very much for inviting us to your offices here in London. There's been increased interest from Asian investors into European markets. What do you think is driving this, and what are some of the key trends?
Well, real estate as an asset class is very familiar to Asian investors broadly. At the Singapore Exchange, real estate is one of the core sector. In fact, it's about 10% of the market capitalization. And we have today, as a sector, a market cap of $180 billion. And over the last 18 years, the real estate investment trust has also developed on the exchange, almost 18 years of history with a broad base of investors, not just institutional, but retail, family offices, and also the wealth management.
And how do investors see the European market? Is there a particular focus on cities, countries, or specific sectors?
The investors on our exchange has, over the last 14 years, been largely investing in Asian real estates, including Singapore. From 2014 onwards, all the REITs that are listed only has overseas assets. And in fact, 9 of our REITs have European assets, almost close to 144 properties. So the investors are familiar with Europe, core European countries, including UK, clearly countries that they know well, but generally as a diversified portfolio across Europe.
The Singapore Exchange is taking a very international approach. Is this based on a demand from investors?
We're seeing European sponsors, including the US sponsors, increasingly looking towards SGX as a venue for listing, and also for the investors who are investing in Europe and US is an opportunity to invest in the currency itself, whether there's a euro or the US. So it's one where it's a sector that investors are familiar with. It's also one where the sponsors are increasingly looking towards Asia, Singapore Exchange, to tap a wider pool investor base.
And what do you see as the advantage for European real estate investors seeking an exit via a listing in Singapore?
Well, for a start, the individual local and foreign investors would receive their dividends tax-free, so there's tax transparency. And even for institutional investors, that rate is only at 10%, lower than most other jurisdictions. But I think more significantly for the sponsors, they can look towards a externally managed asset manager, so they can continue to grow the REITs and obviously earn the fees on the AUM as it comes with it.
And in terms of net asset value, how does Singapore compare with Europe?
Yes, over the years, the sponsors have generally been able to unlock value by listing it as a trust on the Singapore Exchange, and the NAV or the property values would come very close to NAV, and at times would be slightly above NAV.
And do you see this as a growing trend based on the appetite for private investors in Singapore who are looking to access real estate, and particularly overseas real estate, via that listed route?
Yes, I do see that trend, and I think generally for the investors in Asia, investors that we see coming across through the Singapore Exchange, increasingly looking towards REITs with overseas properties. And I think there are a few trends around that. One of which is obviously outlook of continued low interest rates. And then 2, in Europe, particularly where there's a reliable legal environment together with transparency, these are always good ingredients in terms of investors looking for any investments.
And in terms of the focus of Asian investors, are there key markets that they're looking for in Europe?
Well, they're looking for scalability, large markets. So the UK and Germany are clearly within the top 5 globally in terms of real estate markets where there's scale and size. But obviously, investors are also looking to diversify across different countries in Europe. So some of the markets like France, Netherlands, the Nordics, and even some of the Central Eastern European countries.
And is there also a preference in terms of sectors?
Of the 144 properties that are in our REITs that has European exposure, the sectors are in the office, in data center, in logistic and industrial, and also hospitality. So it's a very broad mix of different real estate sectors.
Boon Chye, thanks very much for joining us today. Very interesting to get some insights into, I suppose, the views and the focus of just what the investors in Singapore are looking for. Thank you.
Thank you.